Good evening, hello, and welcome to another painting stream. I've got a few bits in front of me, specifically and particularly some terrain, some buildings for an upcoming game. I also have, given that I haven't touched them since the last stream, the Japanese Ghost Warriors and the Axis Nakdalban, so I can put some paint on them at some point during the stream as well. But the most important thing is that we get some paint on these. There's actually plenty of paint on these already, but I've just had a real tough time getting them to look how I want them to. I've done almost all of the work so far with airbrush, but I'm going to see if I can get some dry brush work in and see if I can get closer to what I want doing it that way. We shall see, we shall see. There's also some detail work I need to pick out, all of the wooden stuff, the floor joists, doors, hatches. There's no accoutrement in the windows. There's no kind of window frame or boards for the windows or anything like that. So it's just the doors and a couple of hatches. We will probably ignore the interiors. This is the only one that I actually made with an open interior. All of the others have everything glued on. But this one, put a ladder in so that I can potentially put some models inside. It's pretty good height for these. I think these are Renedra, but I'm not 100%. Could be wrong. That is not the colour I wanted. That is the colour I wanted. Also orange. Let's find let's find a corner that I can play around with. Actually, I can play around with the inside of this. That's a bit sensible. Right. Dry brushing 101. I am bad at dry brushing. Yeah, that's about right. So get loads of paint all over the brush. And then take it off again. There we go. Not convinced. Not convinced at all. Let's go with it. Let's see if we can get... Let's get this whole wall done. It's not unreasonable. It's not terrible. Yeah, it looks like I certainly have to get this all sorted out before I go and do the woodwork, because I'm just going to completely obliterate any work I do on the woodwork by dry brushing around it. This is a really heavy dry brush. This is much heavier than I was. I think it is along the right lines. What do you guys think in chat? Are we getting... It's better? Question mark? Like I said, I'm having somewhat of a difficulty painting these because I just haven't necessarily worked out the method that's actually going to give me the effect I'm after. Doesn't necessarily help that I'm not necessarily 100% on what effect I am actually after. Just an earthy, kind of generic Adobe mud colours. I was going with white because you often see this style of building in a very stark whitewash. But like this one, I just did not like it. Just did not like it. And you can actually see on some of these, there's 6 or 7 different colours: brown, black, white, green, all sorts of stuff. That was abrupt. Yeah, I've got too much moisture in the brush, and so I'm ending up with streaks, which isn't necessarily helping. That's looking much better. That is looking much better. Now I've got those. Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm on the right track. Speaking of track, no, that was not a deliberate segue there. I've got some railway now. And I did a bit of an unboxing. Well, it was in a bag, but calling it an unbagging video just sounds wrong. An unboxing, unpackaging of some really poor condition, rusty, beaten up and bent tin plate railway from a colleague at work who was very happy to clear out their pile of shame into mine. But it does mean I now have somewhat of a railway. It depends on a number of factors as to how much work I'm actually going to do on that railway. I might just kind of bend some of the Ah, hello, Andre. How are you doing? I might just bend some of the track sections back together and call it a day. But there's plenty of potential to do a great deal. Oddly, it looks much more like mottled on camera than it does in person. It's much more of a kind of consistent. I guess the contrast of the camera must be quite high. Were you able to keep most of the rust in the bag? I inhaled most of it. No, it wasn't actually that bad. I've knocked a few of the pieces around just to try and clear up any kind of loose rust on the parts, and I've kind of cleaned that away. I'm wondering if I should I can't remember what the process is called, but there's various ways of treating metals, clearing off the rust, and then coating it. Again, it's one of those things where how much effort do I really want to put into it? Why is this being all of a sudden much worse than before? That does not look as good as that. What happened? Did I get more moisture in the brush? Is that maybe what I want? Probably not. What was I saying? Railway? Rust in the railway. Yes. There's a lot of rust on that, on a lot of those sections. But how much effort do I want to put into them is a big question. Because if I can just kind of leave them as they are and dump them on a table and they be fine, that might be enough. But if I'm going to replace them at some point, I don't want to spend loads of effort fixing them up. But they actually have a potential to be nice in their own right. So I might end up basing some of the track sections. Or all of them, but maybe, potentially. And if I do that, I'm definitely gonna go in with some chemistry and remove the rust as best I can, and kind of I can't remember what the name of the process is. Essentially, boil the metal, which converts the rust. Kind of, it's a chemical change that the it's like ferrous oxide is rust, like iron rust, and then it's like ferric oxide or something. I'll have to look this up. It's been a long time since I've done any of this. But you convert it from one to another by just steaming it, boiling it, and then scrape off the rust very quickly, because it will then separate from the metal, and then you coat. Depending on how you want to do it, there's various methods you can use to protect the metal for the future. Oil, like just coating it in oil, would help. that is a lot better than it was. Yes. I'm going to go back and find some places where there's less orange and just give them a bit more orange. Anywhere where it's obviously inconsistent. Some inconsistency is good. Natural variation is good. But I don't want any like super obvious bits of different colour, because that's not going to look as good. And I think I'm out of paint on the brush. This poor brush has seen better days. I'm very, very, very cruel to this brush. As I have proven many times before, I'm bad at dry brushing. Always is interesting when you hear people talk about dry brushing as, oh, it's just a beginner's technique. It's so easy, but it's like not a proper technique, and yet I have some real trouble doing dry brushing. Every now and again I get it to go off just right, but oh, that's what I'm talking about. Just a massive smear of paint there. Where did that come from? Probably the back of the brush. Not what I wanted. Bad at it. Andre says, also bad at it, still have to do a decent slap job. You won't catch me doing any of that meme paint job, slap job. how is it that I can have absolutely no paint on the brush, 3 strokes in a row, and then all of a sudden a massive streak of greasy paint all over the place? Gonna reset. Wash the brush, start again. Andre, as a beginner I'll try anything, but usually just base coat and wash most of the time. Yeah, that's fair. A lot of my painting, because I essentially paint wargaming models, and I try to get, like, I only have so much time and I'm trying to paint quite a large number all the time. So I end up not spending a lot of time per model. And so I do end up using relatively quick, easy techniques like washes, dry brushes. You can be very quick, strangely, with what should be like techniques that you put a lot of time into, but you can kind of half-heartedly do them at a rush and still end up with a relatively interesting pattern. Oh, that has just got way too much paint on it. And it looks awful. This is the worst wall yet. I'm hoping once I do the woodwork, just a little bit of contrast will kind of what am I thinking, kind of influence how the rest of how this orange looks, because just having a sea of orange, it's hard to tell how it should look. But a sea of orange with some brown bits in it for the wood is going to be easier to just visually, it's going to be easier to kind of tell what's what. That's a much better wall than the rest of it. But now I have to go a little bit heavier on this just because it's got one wall that's way lighter than the others, and that just doesn't look very good. There's also these rugs on this roof, and yeah, in here. It's actually the same piece, I think. Yeah, this came as 2 sprues. Or 4 sprues, I can't remember, but they were duplicate pairs. So each sprue had one building, or one half of each building at each height. And so with 2 sprues, you get 2 halves of each building at each height. Because each of these are that's the middle height, that's the short one, that's the tall one. So you get this half on one sprue, and then you get the same piece duplicated, and you glue them together to make it. It's a very interesting way of doing it, and you get 3 different heights of building on one type of sprue. On one sprue, which means it's easier for them to manufacture, because obviously every sprue is has a cost associated with setting it up and making it. So if you can make 2 of the same sprue work to make a whole model, it's just a sensible way of doing things. And for something like this, where it's just a bit of terrain, nice bit of terrain though. Have you tried to dab some paint here and there on a wall and brushing that out instead of dry brushing? That's unfortunately what I'm ending up doing by mistake, because I'm not my brush is too wet. Like, that's what happened there and there, and kind of to an extent here when I first started, but not as badly. With a sponge. The only sponge that I have is the packing sponges, like the you get in blister packs. Oh, there we go again. Too much paint in one place, spread it around. Oh, at least it's going to look like the rest of it now. I have Cheeto dust fingers. Strangely, on camera, this one looks better, but in person, definitely this one looks better. I could maybe go a little bit heavier with this one, but not by much. I don't want too much variance. A little natural variance is good, because reality is varied. But don't want to go too far with it. I think I'm almost getting to the point where this, like, really heavy stabbing the brush in is giving me a better effect than doing it lightly. But I'm having to make sure that I run out all the paint in the brush, because if I just do that with a full brush, it'll be just completely painted orange, and that's not what I wanted. But then doing that also with very little paint on the brush, the paint that doesn't last very long, as you might expect. Yeah, that's looking better. That's looking better. It's hard work, all this heavy, aggressive stabbing of brush. Yeah, that does look better. It's not quite perfect, not exactly what I was after, but it has definitely improved on where it was earlier in the stream. Now if I can just get the third one to look good, job's a good one. I think circular motions is definitely doing it better than the because I started going up and down trying to keep any streaks in line with like rainwater or dirt falling off the roof kind of thing. But I think circular motion is just giving that much nicer variance. Yeah, we're getting there. We're getting there. So once I've done this, I'll fill in the woodwork. And then we'll reassess and see what else needs to be done. Andre says, "Look at me, the Bob Ross of terrain." You know, I've never watched Bob Ross. As far as I'm aware, we never had Bob Ross over here. We had Blue Peter. I think Blue Peter's now finished. It's kind of a sad time, because that was an institution that went back a long time. Just at the end of the dry brushing phase, I've learned how to do dry brushing. Ain't that the way? So much more to do. Running out of this orange. It has served me well. I think I want a more saturated orange. I think I actually need just a much more saturated secondaries triad. Because it's not always that easy to get minimal pigment, particularly monopigment, bright saturated secondaries. Like, you can get some really nice monopigment purple, but it's often very deep and dark, which is nice, but I want a highly saturated one, because you can always take a saturated paint and make it dark. You often lose some of the deepness of it if you do. So it's always valuable having different types of paint, different pigments. But it's almost impossible to brighten a paint by adding more stuff into it. There are exceptions, I'm sure. Nearly there, nearly there. So every time I go for more paint, I have to start with this kind of very light going over the top until I've worked the paint around, and then I can start to get a bit more aggressive. It's very odd, but it is working. That's about right. Just need to get the roof done, and then we can change colour. What do I need to paint on my other stuff? No, I don't. Just thinking, if I'm doing brown on the buildings, I may as well use brown on those models, but none of them need brown particularly. Oh, yeah, that's what I've been trying to avoid this whole time. That's not dry brushing, that's just painting. Dry brushing around stuff like this is effectively impossible anyway. Oh, the roof of this one sucks. Unless I can scrub it away. Am I just scrubbing through the primer? Maybe. I should probably not do that. This poor brush has been beaten to death and back. I'm pretty sure that I've used acetone to clean this brush out before. I just won't let it die, poor thing. I mean, there's several different colours of paint in the ferrule at the moment, so probably it could use with heavy duty cleaning at some point soon. Something to be said for keeping your nice brushes nice. Look after them. But your beta brushes, your scruffy brushes, like particularly dry brushes, as long as the kind of it's clean from the middle to the tip, it's usually fine. I've just tipped a bunch of tiny model components on the floor. Oh well, I'll deal with that later. All right then. Brown it is. Which of my many brushes do I choose? Do you hold any amount of a point? Yeah, close enough. I'm not doing precision faces or anything here, I'm just doing some wooden boarding, wooden planks and things. So this is the point where I have to be diligent, because a repetitive task like this, I am very tempted about halfway through to just suddenly get very, very lazy and very, very messy. And I really don't want to be doing that. Especially not if I have to read all that dry brushing around a tiny area. Or I could just make a mistake right here and now. Where did this water come from? I ended up with water on the model somehow. Splashed from somewhere. Trying to keep it at an angle where the light is shining on it, I can see it so that I can paint it, and also the camera can see it. And that is far harder than it should be. What colour do I paint the exposed bricks? Because every now and again there's a few exposed kind of little sections where the plaster's peeling away and you can see some bricks underneath. It would be nice to paint those just enough to it, just to have a bit of more variety. I can maybe make a cream colour. What's opposite orange? Blue. No, I don't like that. These have been oddly difficult to paint. So I couldn't quite get it right with the airbrush. And whilst I've done a better job with the dry brush, it's still not quite right. Throw down and just put a black wash over the whole thing. Probably not. Probably not a good idea. Right, that does look a lot better. That contrast of colour, it needed that. It really did. That looks a lot better. Yeah, good. Although that is one side of this building, which means I've got to do that 5 more times, 6 sides to the 3 buildings. Oh boy. Well, side the second. Talks amongst yourselves in chat if you are interested. Anyone else painting? What are you all painting? Someone better be painting Konflikt47 out there. There is one specific model that I am that's kind of nagging at the back of my mind at the moment, and it's one that I absolutely cannot paint in a quick style. I will not use washes. I will not dry brush. I will not use contrast paint. I'm going to paint that thing properly, and I'm going to give it every second it deserves, because it is a beautiful model. But it's just finding the time. It's me, Rev. Hi, how you doing? You are painting Nakdalben. New ones or the old ones? Because I've got some of the old ones here that I might get some paint on later today. Entropic Tyranny. Cool name. Do you have a guinea pig? I do not. I have no pets. I can barely keep myself alive, let alone an animal. My sister used to have guinea pigs. Squeaky furry potatoes. It's me, Rev, using German veterans with head swaps. Right, okay. Oh, do I have... it's down... Oh, it's not here at the moment, unfortunately. I've been making some more Shibito. And one thing I wanted specifically is I wanted to get one Shibito from each of the main nations. See you later, Andre. Have fun. And that was relatively easy to do. So I've got an American, a Japanese, British, Soviet, German, and Italian, just as bolt action models as zombies. But then I've decided I also want to get at least one Konflikt47 Shibito per nation in the squad. So that's 5 that I need to get. And I've got 4 so far. The Stahltruppen and Firefly, American Firefly, were very easy to do because I had the plastic kits for those. For the Japanese, I'm making my Ashigaru, so I just snuck one of my Ashigaru off to be a Shibito. And then I've just done a Daughter of the Motherland because I have some old 3D print files that were kind of similar, and then using Konflikt 47 arms and heads for that. Warlord Games from the Project Z, actually, not from Konflikt. So it's got some Warlord Games parts in it. And so all I need to do is get a Brit. And I really, really want to do a zombie automata, like just a broken, got a computer virus kind of thing, shambling around because its programming's broken kind of automata. That would be fun. It's me, Rev. Still haven't used Shibito yet. If I'm honest, I don't actually know. I haven't worked out what to do with Shibito yet. They're faster than Totem Core, but they're nowhere near as tough. And I think, because I've only run them in squads of 5 so far, squad of 6 so far, because I've only had 6 of them. At first, I made a batch of 6, and then I've been slowly adding to that. I think I might have a full 12 now. I want to run a full squad of 12 just because it seems to be relatively easy to knock out 6 of them to the point where you can't use the ability to regen because you have to have at least 1 alive to regen the rest. And so having a squad of 12 just seems like a sensible choice. I don't know if it's necessary as such, but I think it's definitely a different vibe from the squad, kind of in terms of how they play, because that way they can take quite a few casualties and just keep bringing back loads. And that's, I think, what they're supposed to be for. They're not necessarily for charging and causing trouble up front. They're for soaking up everything. Just sitting there and soaking up fire. Which oddly makes them not much of a threat. And if they're not much of a threat, they're not much of a target. which is an interesting kind of, I don't know. Like I said, I haven't fully figured them out yet. Now, assault frames. I can talk to you about assault frames. Assault frame officer, 3 models, point of guts, and the launchers. 129 points. Worth every one of them. I'm looking at list building for my Japanese, and I keep thinking, you know, if I get a single artillery gun, it means I can unlock another officer to have another assault frame officer. And that is completely the opposite of bolt action, where you're thinking, well, I want all this cool stuff, but I have to get an officer to get the cool stuff. Whereas now you're thinking, well, I can get this stuff and that would unlock the officer, because the officers are actually really useful. For my next game, given that I'm running it, I might not actually get to play. I hope I do. Hope I get at least one game in. But it will be, I've got a single officer model just by himself with the launcher in assault frame. And I think that's useful. But it's a very, very small points limit game. It's only 800 points, which is very small. We decided on 800 points fairly early on. So, I mean, I don't think it's too small, given that the way that we're playing the event, because it's a narrative event that I have come up with the rules for, like the practical rules for. Oh, starting to think assault frames should get Shibito rifles. Do you mean Shiboru rifles? So I've heard some people say the same thing, having assault frames with Shiboru. I disagree. It's not to say that it can't be done, and not to say that I might be wrong, but it's my intuition on the matter that I wouldn't. And there's a couple of reasons for that. Assault frames are more expensive points-wise than battle frames, or the Shiboru Rifle Squad. Although they're just normal veterans, so they're actually kind of a different thing altogether. And so when you add the Shiboru rifle, you're making them the most expensive type of Shiboru rifle, right? Between all the squads that can take Shiboru rifles, you're making them the most expensive. But in doing so, you're actually taking away one of their, or part of their biggest advantage. In that, the assault frame gives you +1 pen in close combat because of the blade. It gives you deadly 2, so you get 2 attacks, and it has a submachine gun as standard armament, which means you get a 3rd attack, and that 3rd attack still gets the +1 pen. But if you swap out this submachine gun for a Shiboru rifle, you now don't have an assault weapon, and so you don't have that third attack. So you're cutting a third of your attacks. You're cutting three per model to 2 per model in close combat, in exchange for being much more effective at range. So it makes them, probably makes them very flexible. They can shoot at anything or charge anything. But I think if you're going to be shooting, I would rather just have a battle frame squad. And if I'm charging with them, I'd rather have the submachine gun, because then I'm getting loads more attacks. That's my thoughts on it. And maybe I'm being too like focused. I'm trying to focus that unit too much. Whereas maybe having that versatility is more valuable. Did mine with submachine guns. Can you not pay for tough? Ooh. That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. I don't think so, but if you can check the army list on the website, Konflikt47.com, because Tough Fighters is 1 point per model, so that's yet another. Let's assume a full squad of 10 models. That's another 10 points on top on an already the most expensive points cost unit. But it means they get that third attack still. So they're as good in close combat as a standard battle frame. And they have the Shibori rifle, which then means they are much more effective at range. But, on the other hand, that's an expensive unit now. See, that is actually an interesting way of looking at it. I want to play this game so much, just to come up with all these different things. I just want to play 50 games with the Japanese to work out all these little weird things like assault frame, Shibori assault frame, and Shibori battle frame, and how many do you need in a Shibito squad? How many do you need in a Ghost squad? It's Me Rev says, been taking assault and battle frame and have been thinking it'd be worth the points to have all assault and maybe some of them get Shiboru. I think I'm still leaning towards what I said originally, which is to have a focused unit. Battle frame with the Shiboru and assault frame without, but it's a tempting idea. It definitely is a tempting idea, especially if you can buy them Tough Fighters. Maybe the points will get adjusted to. Yeah, that is something we're hoping for. There's been rumours that a bit of a points adjustment for the Japanese is coming. Things like the Inago. And I've gone through the points values for the Inago, and I know why it's the points it is, and why it's so much more than the Hoishiraka, which is effectively the same vehicle. But we definitely need a version of the Inago that is cheaper, because 300 points just is not worth it. What is that? I don't even know what that is. Is it a beanbag? Yeah, these are coming along nicely now. Just very slowly. Actually, the other thing I'd really like a points decrease on is the Shiboru cannon. Because at the moment, that is painfully expensive for a weapon that's not that amazing. I mean, it's good, I like it, it can hit very powerfully, but it's too random. Yeah, I agree. So what's the Vogelspinner's weapon option? It's the twin autocannon, light anti-tank gun, and one autocannon, which is a weird loadout, flamethrower, and then the machine swear. How powerful is the machine swear compared to a Shiboru cannon? Because I think the Shiboru cannon is technically slightly better, but not by much. And when you look at the larger Schwerkanone, that thing is a monster in comparison to Shiboru. But as it stands at the moment, going from a light anti-tank gun to Shiboru cannon to a light Shiboru cannon is 80 points, and that is just too much for what it does. Yeah. Because the Shiboru cannon, if you're not using the Rift ability, so if you're not using a Rift Eye, it's an auto cannon. 2 shots, 48-inch range, plus 2 pen, like, it's an auto cannon. And so the only time it does anything more than an auto cannon is if you use a Rift ability, and at that point you have to hit with both shots. On top of everything else, you're spending a Rift Eye, and you have to hit with both shots. And for the most part, it just doesn't happen. Or at least it doesn't happen very often. Whereas the machine swear and the Tesla cannon and the sonic cannon, the Sukhoi projector. So like when you use the rift ability, it's just better now. Oh yeah, of course. The Schwerkanone and the machine Schwer does ignore cover. Yeah. I would love it if Shiboru weapons. Can you imagine if a Shiboru rifle squad or a battle frame or assault frame with Shiboru rifles? You imagine you use a rift ability and then that ignores cover. That would be awesome. That would be great, genuinely. I'd love that. But I think what we really need from Shiboru, rather than ignoring cover, which would be nice, but you want to keep the weapons different per faction. What I would like to see from Shiboru is a way to increase the hit probability. So if you use a rift die, you get a reroll to hit, for example, or you get +1 to hit or +2 to hit. Just to offset like the movement penalty. But you don't necessarily want it to be too powerful. You don't want it to absolutely just automatically destroy everything every time, because that's no fun. Eternal Rhombus, hello, how you doing? Would you rather a cheaper cannon that keeps the same Shiboru rule, or the same points cost, but each hit from the Shiboru cannon doubles? So a max of 4 hits. Ooh. That's another way of doing it, yeah. Because that way, just going with the idea from Eternal Rhombus there, if you had 2 shots and either one of them hitting gave you an extra shot, against infantry, that's 2 pen 2 hits, or 4 pen 2 hits, which is good. I like that. It's not massively powerful, but that's pretty strong. It's going to take out a couple of Style Trooper and a Werewolf maybe. Yeah, that's helpful. Against a vehicle, getting 2 hits off to get that +6 pen is just so rare. But if any one of the hits doubled up to be... that'd be a pen 4 hit. If you got 1 hit that doubled, that would be a pen 4 hit. Which is not amazing. But then the sonic cannon's not that good against vehicles either. And the machine Schwer isn't necessarily amazing against vehicles. But then the Axis have the rail cannon, which is extremely good against vehicles. Maybe I'm just thinking of the Shiboru cannon in the wrong way. Rather than thinking of it as a anti-tank weapon, because it's on a vehicle, it must be an anti-tank weapon. Maybe we should be thinking of the Shiboru cannon as an anti-infantry weapon. And then treating Shinhoto Chiha as 25% chance of pen 8. Yeah. I was thinking that as well. Because then you're going from pen as it stands at the moment, pen 6 if you get the hits in. How about this? As a slight variation on what you've said? Rather than every hit getting a bonus, every hit roll getting a bonus hit, how about any number of hits gives you a bonus hit? So what that means is if you get one hit, it becomes 2. But if you get 2 hits, if you do get the both in, you're still only getting an extra 1, so it becomes that 3. So we've not increased the maximum, but we've just raised the floor a little bit without raising the ceiling. Whereas your method raises the floor and the ceiling, which probably is The other thing to remember that the best anti-tank weapon that the Japanese have is the lunge mine. It's the best anti mech weapon as well. As one of my opponents found out recently. Have you tried any games with a small scorpion with no gun? The angry potato, we call that. I haven't, because all of my scorpions have tails. I mean, I could just say, oh, the gun is jammed or it's out of ammo or whatever, because we do that a lot in our group. We don't force people to buy another model, just say they can run it as a slightly different variation of the same model. But I have not. Now, so the angry potato scorpion is essentially it's there to charge big infantry, maybe other vehicles, but not mechs, because another mech would probably kill it in close combat. But if you fought like if you charged 3 Style Trooper or werewolves or something, what's close combat for a leg in for a walker? Because it's 1 attack per pair of legs. So the potato scorpion would give you 2 attacks. Yes. And it's like 95 points. It's got 95. It's 95 points, so that is another advantage for the angry potato, because you can run like 3 of them. Pen 2. Yeah. 2 attacks at pen 2 it's not actually that much. So it's a very mobile thing. You get machine guns, which are actually like double machine guns, so it's 6 shots. So that's not nothing. It's got no pen, but that's fine, because you just find targets that it can hurt. It's Me Rev says needs 2 arms. Yes. I would love to see a Type 7 without a tail, because that's very interesting. Because a Type 7 without a tail would be 105 points, and that now has 2 leg attacks and 2 arm attacks in close combat. Now that is the better close combat one. Already tight on points elsewhere. Yeah, you can be with the Japanese very easily. I find I'm still outnumbering my opponents with the Japanese, but that's because I'm bringing a lot of mundanes. I just had a thought. We've got the Shibori rifle that you can give to various squads. We've got the Shibori cannon that you can give to various vehicles. But have you considered a Shiboru lunge mine? Rules-wise, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever, because the lunge mine automatically hits. It would just be a crushed device that the guy would be carrying and just attaches it to the vehicle. Mark II power suits with Shiboru cannons. Ooh. I have the perfect model to do that, and I've already painted it up, and it's sitting on my shelf just waiting for a unit to come along that it can be. I think it's meant to be like a knockoff. Not knockoff, that's the wrong word. A proxy for a 40k. Like Terminator with a melter cannon. So, it's pretty big. It's pretty big. It's probably 1.5 times the height of the assault frame. It's actually taller than my what are they called? The Axis ones, Mark IIs. Stormtrooper. Yeah, it's bigger than a Stormtrooper. And I've already painted it in the same blue as the rest of my Japanese. So as soon as I get a unit that can be, I'll be happy. I was actually considering running it as a Panzerschreck team, because there's the armored Panzerschreck team, but good grief, 100. Oh, it's over 100 points for a not particularly good weapon on 2 models. Again, points reductions across the board for the Japanese would be nice. There we go. So that's all of the wood complete. Now I do want to do something with with these, and I'm not necessarily sure exactly what. Because I kind of think these should be fairly brightly coloured. But how brightly coloured? Oh, wow. This paint is done for. I wonder if I can coax any of this back into something usable. So this is a dark green paint that I got when I was doing the Tanith. I mean, it's become very clear the colours of paints that I use the most. Because dark military greens like this, dark browns like the one we were just using here, and like sandy colours, like light browns and tans and sand. I use that type of paint a lot. Those three kind of groups of colours more than anything else. Although I'm managing to get this paint to just about behave itself. Put little carpets on top with hooks and stuff. Hooks? Hooks for what? Hooks for holding up the carpet? Earth tones. Yeah, exactly. It's the earth tones. I paint a lot of earth tones. I think that's maybe one of the reasons why I've been so obsessed with painting the Japanese for Conflict, because I'm painting them in a really bright blue. It ends up being quite dark because I'm using a fairly heavy black wash with them. But it's just so nice to paint with not green and brown, and actually paint with a saturated version of a color as well. Who thinks purple? Did you say purple? I heard someone in the chat say purple. This purple is a nice colour, but it does not cover for at all. Just look at it. It's like I'm painting with matte medium. And that's too much water. That's way too much water. Whoops. Thin your paints, not like that. Have any of you used the Shiboru sniper yet? Because I quite like the idea of the Shiboru sniper, but I just cannot hit with it. Huh, didn't even notice it had carpets. It does, in fact, have carpets. And as I said, the this kit is made of 2 identical sprues. And you get one half of each height of building, and so you put the half from each sprue together to make the full building. That's why you can have 3 different heights of building. But also that means that you get another one with carpets, which I put on the inside of this building. I will not paint that today. I'll paint that some other time. Grief. Right, what I need to do is let that dry and then give it another coat. And paint the edging. I'm thinking like a golden... Yeah, so not actually gold, like a metallic gold, but like an ochre. That would be like gold thread. And this is another, like I said, like we were discussing, the earthy colours. Here's another one that I've been through most of a pot of, and it's just the last dregs that are still drying out. I think the Revell Aquacolor pot is an improvement over the Citadel pot, but it's still a pot. And so they do tend to dry out. It's not to say that the dropper bottles don't dry out, because they absolutely do, but they do tend to last a lot longer. And especially when you've got just a little bit left in a pot, in a bottle, that's not going to dry out anything like it does when you've got just a little bit of a pot left. That's a nice carpet, that is. Would be a shame if someone just completely drenches it in a black wash. That purple actually hasn't dried yet. Not sure if you can see, it's quite shiny. I'm pretty sure that's not a gloss purple. I mean, it is an army painter, and army painters often are a little bit more satin than matte. that's not helping. This end where it's drier, however, is. I think I need to just leave that alone for a bit. Right. Blackwash time. That is far too much water. That's probably going to take the rest of the stream to dry. Right. While the purple is drying, I've just noticed that I've missed some of the wood on this one. Yeah, so I got all the rest. And I got that side. Yeah. There we go. And we've actually only got 20 minutes left of the stream anyway. I really thought I was going to get some time on the conflict infantry, but I guess I've spent the whole 2 hours of stream just doing these buildings. Well, the buildings are needed. Cool. See you around, Eternal Rhombus. Have fun. See, on the camera there, it looks like there's a massive dark spot here and here, which doesn't really show up in person as much. It kind of is a little brighter in the middle, but not by much. But on camera, that's a very stark difference. Let's be a bit more sensible with the wash for the other rug. I don't necessarily need to flood it quite so badly. That's much nicer. That's really bringing out the detail in the sculpt. Or at least in person it is, not on camera. I wonder how this will look when it's dry. Hopefully, not terrible. I think there's just some spots where the ochre was still wet, which is has not behaved very well. I think realistically, I just need to leave that alone for a bit now. I need to let that completely dry, and then once it's completely dry, I can come back and see if I need to do anything more to it. But I have actually been successful in that I've painted quite a bit more of these buildings. I'm not convinced enough to say that they are done, but they are certainly very well suited for our event next week. So we've got that going for us. I'm just going to paint that couch before I go. I'll paint it in a slightly different brown. and then whatever this is, just need to paint it a colour so that it hides the horrible orange dry brush that it caught. I don't actually know what that is. Is it a cushion? No idea. Right, I think that's all I'm going to be doing today, so there we go, some orange houses for the desert. Yeah, I want to work out what I can paint the exposed bricks as, because something just to break up the colour would be nice, but I'll do that another time. If anyone has any questions, comments, suggestions, post them now. And then I will end the stream. So, what do I have coming up? I pretty much am hassock. It's me, Rev says it's a hassock. I don't know what that is. Ah, yeah. It could be. It's kind of similar to what they called like an Ottoman chest, in that it's kind of a fluffy seating thing that looks like all of the chairs that are around it. Well, it makes the place look cool. That will dry eventually, I hope. Yeah, so live streams will be coming. I think I'm probably going to live stream every Monday. If that goes well, I may end up doing more live streams, but there is a limit to what I can do. If I can get in the habit of streaming once a week on a Monday, kind of get into the habit of streaming, then I can maybe adjust that to a different day. But yeah, I want to get in the habit of it first. I'm still behind on videos, speaking of having limited time. So my video this week will likely be a excuse me. It will likely be a continuation of a previous video. I did some unit upgrade markers, and I've completed the set basically. So I did the Axis Panzerfaust and the American 84. Is it the 84 or the M79? No, not the M79. The reloadable missile launchers from the plastic sprues. Well, I found an RPG-7 on the Project Z sprues, as well as on Cult 3D, someone had the British single-shot Piats, which is great fun. So I've got some of those, and then I designed myself some for the Japanese. So I'm going to have a whole bunch of those, because I think disposable launchers, particularly on small units like officer squads, that's pretty useful. Alright, let's end the stream. Let's go about our day and relax and stuff. So thank you very much to everyone who popped past. It was relatively quiet today, but not terrible. And yeah, I think these are suitable enough for what we want them for. I will definitely come back to these, because yeah, there's just something else that's missing from them, and I don't necessarily know what. It might be a wash. It might just be that, because there's a lot of texture in the surface here, and maybe it does just need to be Maybe it just needs a wash drone on it. No idea. Right, so thank you everyone for coming past. I'm ED-SKaR, always will be, and I shall see you next time. I should give it a few seconds just to wind down, because otherwise it'll end the stream mid-sentence.